Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kathleen Johanchis. I work in grant services. I am joined by John Hayden, also working in grant services. And today, we're going to go over the pre-release of funds report, as well as the release of funds report, and just go over some common issues we've been seeing and what we are expecting from you guys. So John is going to start us off with our pre-release of funds.
Hello there, everyone. So I just wanted to touch base again today to kind of go over the release of funds, pre-release of funds reports. In the past, we've always done like PowerPoint presentations, and we've kind of thought maybe that doesn't work as well to show you the actual steps of putting documentation in places. So today we made a mock community with some mock documentation. And we're going to be going over documentation and where it's supposed to be all going and what we're looking for. This process is specifically about what we do in these reports and what we're looking for and what type of language we're looking for in the files. So let's start with the pre-release of funds. So the first document that we're going to be looking at in our pre-release of funds file section is going to be the affidavit. So we are specifically looking for the publisher's affidavit. That's it. So we are looking for the publisher's claim. So this is just to ensure that the advertisement was procured and that it indicates which days the advertisement was intended to be printed. In this case, those are these advertisements are intended to be printed on the 22nd and the 29th. That clearly shows us there. Again, this is what is intended to be printed, not actually proof of print. Typically, affidavits, again, are just the receipt. Some newspapers will provide, along with affidavit, a copy of the advertisement as the language is presented, and typically will include almost all the information we need to verify. The only thing that it will not verify on this is dates of printing, usually. We're going to go over what I'm actually looking for as far as the information we need to verify, but when we ask for the affidavit, what we're asking for is this document here, the publisher's claim. The next document that we're going to be looking at is the advertisement itself. So that was the IFB. So we're between different GA updates that we've had in the past and GA trainings, as well as the handbook itself, there are a lot of different terms for what we're looking for, and some of those terms can mean different things between what we want and what the newspaper calls them. We are working on the handbook to be updated, so all that language will be a little bit more unified and understood, so that we have a clear understanding about between what we're asking for and then what the newspaper gives you, because sometimes we'll ask for something, the newspaper will give you it, and it won't be what we need because we're using the same word but meaning different things. What we're looking for the advertisement or the IFB or the publish proof, I'm looking to verify two things: that the advertisement was printed and ran, and it has all the information we need. So let's look at a couple examples. I've made some mock ones from not so great to what we're looking for to kind of. So let's start. Rip the Band-Aid off. Let's go with the kind of bad example first. So go ahead and click that one. Yep. Can you open it as a separate file? So we understand that when you're working with communities and you're working with the local newspaper, you kind of just get whatever you get, and a lot of times you'll turn that in. In the past, what we used to allow is that if they give you a copy of the advertisement and it's not really easy to read or it's not easy to follow exactly the information in it, we have allowed for documentation to be turned in along with it that is a written up, typed up version of the advertisement. We are really straying away from this because we do want the actual printed ad. We will no longer be accepting this. As of our most recent update to the checklist, we have taken this off. We will be going over the link to our checklist at the end of our meeting to show you where that information is, but we have updated the checklist. We are no longer allowing this. Again, since you are paying for an advertisement, the understanding is that there should be someone either at the local community level that can go and grab a copy of the newspaper, or the newspaper themselves can provide you either a printed copy, or you can use a digital version. So if they have a digital printing on a website, we can also accept that. That's mostly what we have for kind of the bad example. So let's show you now the good example of what we're looking for, and what a lot of you already do turn in, but we just kind of want to go over some of the language as well. Okay. One moment. No.
I apologize. We do not have the good example up right now,
One moment.
but we are getting that. But to go off what John said, we have made updates to the checklist. We actually just made some new updates today. And like he said, we will be going over that at the end and where you can find them. And we highly, highly recommend you check them out as soon as you can, so you are up to date.
Okay, thank you for waiting. So this is the ideal of what we are looking for. And again, it's what a lot of you already turn in. So we kind of just want to highlight what we're expecting, what we're looking for. So along this kind of shows what we get from a lot of you is an actual printed copy. So it's either something that is cut out or just a version of the ad. So we actually don't need the full advertisement newspaper. We don't need the full paper itself. We just need the page or pages that it's printed on. Again, that can be cut out to a piece of paper and then scanned in. Again, the big thing here is that we're able to read it and clearly make out the language. Some of the things that we look for in the advertisement, is the printed dates, which can usually be found at the top of the newspaper. So it indicates what date was first printed. This will then again match with the affidavit or the publisher's proof that was provided, and we'll show the first date. Then we have the initial bid opening date, which usually is mentioned a couple times in the first couple paragraphs. Then we have just in the paragraph or in the body of the text itself, I'm looking for specifically the words bidders bonds. Then we're looking specifically for language that talks about the performance and payment bonds. And then there's a whole section that talks about the U.S. Department of Labor, which refers to the Davis-Bacon requirements. There's another paragraph that is pretty uniform that talks about the Executive Order number 11246. Our most recent rollout, which is included in Language Online, is for all the BABA, the Build America, Buy America. So it has all the required language in there. You just kind of need to copy and paste. It's pretty uniform and just needs to be in the advertisement. The next is about minority women-owned businesses and participation. Maybe Weeby, which is again a block of paragraph of language that just gets included. And then we have again the 1124.6 gets talked about again, along with the Section 3 requirements. And then if you scroll to the bottom of the advertisement itself, you'll also see that the dates again are printed. This is what we'll use as the proof that it has been printed those both times based on what it says on the advertisement as printed. So that's the really good example. We have one more example that we're going to use, which we get occasionally. And again, this comes up a little bit. If you can open the full one, go. So what we get every once in a while is that we'll get a copy where it has just almost everything. So on the ad itself, it will not say the print date, which again is what we're looking for. And even if we look at the bottom of the advertisement itself, it won't have the bid date. So while it does have the bid dates on, or the printed dates, I should say, while it doesn't have the printed dates on the ad, but does have it on the affidavit, we will not be able to accept it. We need to have the printed dates on the advertisement itself. So just providing a copy of the ad that doesn't have the dates and with an affidavit that has the dates, we can't accept that. We would need an advertisement that clearly shows the dates that the ad was. Another thing is to just make sure that all the language that we need is included. And this example where I've gotten this before is when, again, people are cutting out pieces of the ads. Sometimes they'll maybe forget about a sentence or leave out something. So in this case, the labor information was accidentally cut off. Again, this is a common occurrence that we have, but nothing out of malicious, but just kind of an accident that everyone should just be aware of that might happen. And then for the last part of my pre-release of funds report is the certified mail receipts. So this is talking about the MebeWeB. So these are just the actual receipts themselves that we're looking at. Once we receive those, we will check all that information against IDOA's website, which I'm sure all of you have seen this before, but it's the Certified Mail Business search. And then there's a full list of all of the certified businesses and their registration names, as well as what type of services they provide. Our recommendation has always been that you should also provide a screenshot of the company on the list as proof, especially if there's going to be maybe a couple weeks or even a month or two between when you solicit them and when you support the report in GMS. The certification list updates about every week, and within that time period, MebeWeB certification does expire. So if you might solicit someone in 1 month and then at the end of the month you turn in your certification, they might have, or your solicitation, the certification might have expired. So our best recommendation is to ensure that you've covered all your bases, is just provide a screenshot, which is something you can put in a little document and include with your uploads for pre-release of funds.
And that is what we have for procurement. Next, we're going to move on to labor. So we have our form for pre-bid conference guide acknowledgement. I haven't been seeing too many issues with these. Sometimes we'll often get a form that has the wage decision and does not include the mod. It's very important that you have the exact wage decision with the modifications and the bid opening date. We check this bid opening date with what is written in GMS to confirm that that is correct. Along with this, it of course has to be signed at the bottom. And then we also have our pre-bid conference sign-in sheet. Please remember to put the date at the top of this and to include this in your uploads. So next, we're going to go back to the status report record page itself, just to kind of show you what we went over in the uploads. You'll see that there's sections for each of these things that you as the GA can check. The IFB uploaded, a bid affidavit uploaded, date of advertisement, prime contractor, MebeWeB proof uploaded. These are also kind of reminders in a way of what you need to upload. But it doesn't include everything. So please, again, make sure you're looking at the checklist when you are filling out this report. If I scroll down a little more, you'll see we have labor form 3 and labor form 4 sections. Again, these just check boxes, writing in a date and the wage decision. This is exactly what you wrote on the pre-bid conference guide. The main two issues, or the main issue I usually see here is oftentimes estimated contract amount will be left blank. You must put in a contract amount here. We do understand that we don't have the full contract amount at pre-release of funds. We get that, but you do have to have an estimated contract amount or we are not able to approve. And again, you put your wage decision date, and the type of construction. If you don't already know, you get this information from sam.gov. And if you have questions about that, you can always email me later and I can walk you through sam.gov. Okay, and that is pre-release of funds. Hope that was good for you guys. And if you have any questions about it or concerns or would like any of the mock examples to have, please reach out to John or I and we can get those to you. All right, next we're going to move on to release of funds. All right, John.
So again, we're going to be looking at some files and documentation. Again, things that I'm going to be looking for as things that we require. The first one that we're going to be looking at is the 6.4. So let me pull that up. So for the 6.4, what we're looking here is that it has been fully completed and signed. So the documentation has all been completed. Everything's been filled out and signed. Everything regarding the labor section is correct. The specific thing that all really need is to make sure that the net contract amount has been completed, as a lot of information throughout this report is pulled and reflected from this amount. Specifically the prime contractor, as we won't have a signed contract for the prime contractor at the time of release of funds. And then the next documentation we're going to be looking at is the local match. For the local match letter, this specifically will be needed usually only if there has been any change to the release of funds status itself in regards to the local match amount. So if the amount that you've submitted for your local match has stayed the same since you had submitted it at application, then you will not need to resubmit. However, if you would like to resubmit, you can, but we do have access to the application files. So that that's one less file that you have to re-upload if there has been no change. The next is our bid tabulation. So the bid tabulation, you've all seen this before. One thing that we just want to talk about is, along with this bid tabulation, we also do need a bid letter or some type of formal language from, So the thing that we'll need is some type of letter or documentation from the engineer themselves, affirming that what their recommended choice will be. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. So what the recommended choice will be for the prime contractor. So we're just looking for some formal language. So you can include all the bid tabulations, but if you can provide also a letter, or if you just can supply a short paragraph within the bid tabulation affirming that amount, we can accept that as well. Some new things that have come up. So we have with BABA rolling out soon, we will be having more training regarding this in the upcoming GA update, but we're going to be looking for some type of documentation, a self-certifying letter, typically from the engineer, letting us know that, again, we're still kind of up in the air about all the language, but we need something somewhere in the letter. It should stipulate that the engineer has reviewed all the materials that will be used during this project and that they have been made in the US or are of domestic origin. Again, we'll have more information about this as we roll it out in the next upcoming GA update, but we just wanted to let you know that we are going to be looking for something specifically from the engineer stipulating that the materials have been reviewed and that they will be BABA compliant. We will also, we don't have an example for you for today, but we will also need something as a letter of the BABA cognizant agency. We don't have a great example because at this time we are still coming up with the so we actually have someone here who can explain some of the BABA information.
Hello, everybody. This is Pamela Guerrero with Okra. So as we are continuing rolling out BABA in the different forms and formats that we would like for you guys to go about documenting the compliance with BABA, when we are talking about the cognizant agency, we're simply wanting to identify who the agency will be in charge of ensuring that BABA has been followed through the process of the project. So say, for example, you have different sources of funding, and one of those is CDBG as well as SRF, or you might be using funding from RD. Based on the amounts of funding that you are receiving, we'll be able to identify who the cognizant agency will be. So for now, what we're requesting as part of release of funds is that you will get a letter from the agency with that identifies that will be in charge of enforcing BABA throughout the project. That letter should stipulate who the program is, what the program is, what the actual BABA compliance requires, as well as if there's any waivers in place for that program or that agency. And that will be sufficient for now as part of the cognizant agency letter. And then as we are rolling this out a little bit more through the year or through this month and next month, we'll be able to give you guys a little more specific guidance on what we're expecting for that. So as of now, as long as we are identifying the agency that is going to be in charge of the BABA compliance and you're getting an official letter from the agency, that will be sufficient for now.
Thank you for that. So we're now going to be looking at the contractor cards themselves. So the first one we're going to be looking at is the prime contractor. Since we were just looking at the 6.4, this ties into the documentation and the information we're looking for on the prime contractor card itself. What we'll be asking for is a, excuse me, we will be asking for an unsigned copy of the prime contractor's contract. Again, this should not be signed at the time of release of funds. However, moving forward, again, for our updated checklist, we will be asking for an unsigned version. Again, we will be making sure that it is neither signed nor dated. However, on the contractor card itself, it will ask for a contract amount on the card. This contract amount is actually going to be reflective of what is provided on the financial management form 6.4. For this example, this is being paid with both grant and local funds. So all the information regarding the solicitation of mailing is all information that you already have provided at pre-release of funds. So unless there was a change or you needed to, there was something that would have changed the information provided at pre-release of funds, we will just be using the documentation that had already been uploaded to complete the solicitation mailing section. That's all that I need from the prime contractor card. Next, we're going to be looking at engineering. For this specific example, engineering, like a lot of projects, is being paid with local funds. So we won't be looking at any of the solicitation or the advertising. We'll just be looking at the contract itself. So when we're looking through the example, can you pull up a separate file? We're going to be looking for some specific language that I'm going to be needing to check off on. So one of the first ones that we'll be looking for is regarding the performance schedule. So we'll need some type of language within the contract to stipulate, when the work is going to be completed and when the contract timeline is. Next, we'll be looking at language regarding compensation or method of payment in the budget. So we're looking for some type of language within the contract that stipulates how you're going to pay the specific engineer and then how much is their budget. This amount, again, will be reflected back onto the specific contractor card. We're looking for some type of scope of work, something that clearly indicates to us, within the contract, what they're going to be doing for what they're going to be compensated for. And then the last part is we're looking for some type of language within the contract regarding documentation or records retention, reporting documentation. These are just some of the big things we're looking for. Lastly, we're just going to be making sure that it is signed and dated, as well as the contract included has a copy of the federal and state third-party contract provisions. Again, since this is paid with local funds, I'll just be looking through the contracts that are provided. So the last part we're going to be looking at is the grant administration. Excuse me. For this example, like most projects, the grant administration is being paid with solely through grant funds. So there's a lot more information we'll be looking for. So let's go ahead and open the file section. The first piece of documentation I'm going to be looking for is our soliciting mailing. Again, we're just looking for these contractor card, certified mail receipt cards that are going to be provided to indicate that that grant administrators that are maybe WEB approved have been solicited. Again, just like the process that we did before, we're just going to ensure that. Oh, thank you for your patience with that one. We are just ensuring that the GAs that are being solicited have been maybe WEB approved. Again, this should only be coming from GAs that are also approved through OCRA as the grant certification process. Again, this will be a repeat of the IDOA, where we would recommend that you provide a screenshot proving that they were maybe WEB approved at the time of solicitation. That's all that we're looking for as far as solicitation. Next, we're going to be looking at the advertising. Maybe you can download separately. Again, in this one, just like the advertisements we've had before, I'm just looking for some specific information. So again, the first one is that we're looking for the print date. And then we're going to be looking for the date that the proposals were due. There should be at least a 15-day period between these two dates for both the date of advertisement as well as the date proposals were due. Other language that we're looking for is a scoring criteria. So we're looking for some type of point basis that indicates how the award of contract will go out. And then for the pricing model language, we're just going to need some specific language regarding if it was a fixed fee or if there was any other type of consideration for the pricing model. And these are pretty standard advertisements we see all the time. So just like what we said with pre-release of funds, we're looking for advertisements that are clear and easy to read. This is what we're looking for as far as an expectation of what we would consider an advertisement. The next is evaluation. We typically don't have issues with evaluation. The only thing that we get into a lot or seen quite often recently is that solicitation will go out, all the maybe weeby information will go out. However, what happens is that the community will only get one proposal back. If there's only one proposal that's been received, the community doesn't need to go through the full solicitation process. All they need to do is supply a letter to OCRA or indicated to OCRA that only one administration firm had reached out and only one proposal was received, and we'll accept this. So the community doesn't have to go through and collect all the other documentation needed to do the multi-step process of selecting a firm if only one proposal was sent in. So this is just a reminder again to the community as well as yourselves that they don't need to go through the full solicitation or the full evaluation process if only solicitation proposal was returned. The last part of this is, again, since this was paid with grant funds, we will expect there to be a grant contract provided. This is where we will be getting a lot of our information. And again, like we talked about before, again, we're looking for some type of performance schedule that's indicated within the contract. We will be looking for some type of operating budget or method of payment. Again, language indicating how the grant administrator is going to be paid and what their budget's going to be. Again, the total from this should be reflected back onto the contractor card itself. Again, we're looking for a scope of work or description of services. We'll be looking for some type of information regarding documentations or records retention, any type of responsibility for documentation. And then again, we'll be looking to make sure that it has been signed and dated, as well as verify that it does have the third-party contract provisions. And again, making sure that's signed and dated, that information will then be reflected back onto the contractor card. At the end of reviewing all these contractor cards, that's when we'll make sure that the total costs, so if we go back to the status report for release of funds, we will make sure that on our end, the total amount of money that you're requesting in both grant funds and local funds is either greater than or lesser than the total amount that you're asking for your contractor grand total. In this example, it's all $0 because this is a fake community. But again, the total that you're asking and the total amount awarded and total match, those two added up together equals the total budget. That number should be greater than or lesser than the contractor grand total. That's what I have for our release of funds report. Here's Catherine again.
All right, thank you guys. So we're just going to go over real quick the record, the status report itself, kind of just reiterating what we were talking about with the files. Here's where you'll do your check boxes, checking and make sure that you have uploaded the uploads that you need. For the total amount awarded, total match, as I'm sure you guys already know, this is pulled from that contractor card, so you don't have to fill these out yourself. Scrolling down a little bit more, we have labor. We're also looking for that 6.4. John and I are both for this one. The biggest thing I'm seeing is we often forget to check the all parties acknowledgement. This is just letting us know that you've read this little paragraph right here and are agreeing to it. Along with this, you have your wage decision again, your bid opening date, and your wage decision date. So this is our release of funds and pre-release of funds common issues that we wanted to go over with you today. We're also going to bring up or show you where to find our checklists. It's very important that you guys are seeing these and are able to find them and utilize them. So whenever looking it up, Okra CDBG checklist. Let's see. Once you're here, I'm sure you've all been on this website, CDBG resources. You can scroll down a little bit all the way to the bottom, and this is where you will find the pre-release of funds checklist. And you'll see it was actually updated earlier today, and we added BABA language must be included in add if applicable. It's important to know that one, as well as the release of funds checklist. We have also added BABA information in here. You'll see that under BABA materials, if applicable to your grant. Like John and Pam said earlier, we will be going over that in the upcoming GA update. So you don't need to worry too much about it right now or be nervous about it. We will be going over it and we will explain it to you guys. But yeah, so here are the checklists. There was our review. If you guys have any questions about the pre-release of funds or release of funds process, uploads, or would like any of the mock examples just for some help, please let us know. You can email myself or John. Our contact information is found on the IN.gov Lieutenant Governor website under Grant Services. And thank you all for joining us today.